Well, before we get away from Guitar Heroes, I've read one that kind of surprised me, but then it made perfect sense. That you've said in a few interviews that Bert Jansch really inspired you to be able to sit down and make a solo album. Now, he's this incredibly intricate folk stylist, legendary, but he's a musician's musician. You only ever hear musicians drop that name.
Right.
How did you discover him? When did you discover him? Why did he inspire The Messenger?
Well, how Bert Jansch inspired The Messenger is because there are, I've been asked a number of times now about the guitar players who really inspired me, and I'm able to give that answer because as I've just explained at length, it was a lot about records, record culture. But there was Bert Jansch, Nile Rodgers from Chic, and James Williamson from the Stooges.
What a list! Can we just pause to say no other musician ever would give that list, and that's
Those were the only three guys that I really. And when I was younger, I really liked Rory Gallagher, and I thought his ethos and the way he carried himself, and he was a killer player. But those three guys stuck with me all the way. They've always, I can hear it in my playing. And but what happened was, I moved to a neighbourhood at about 11 years of age. That was just had loads of guitar players. Everybody around was a guitar player. It was just in the suburbs in the early 70s. I moved from the inner city, which was a very tough place, to the suburbs, to what Americans would call the projects. Me and my sister thought we'd move to Beverly Hills, because of the place we'd come to before that was like really, really seriously in the city. But there was a bunch of guitar players, and these guys, we all took ourselves so seriously. Billy Duffy from The Cult was one of them. He's just got up and played with me at the Fillmore. It's the first time we've ever played together. We've known each other since 1975, since we were 13 or something. Billy was one of them. There was a bunch of guys. One guy, Billy was into Mick Ronson and Pete Townsend and Paul Kossoff. Another guy who was really fiercely talented, he was very, very into Neil Young. And who else was he into? He was into some other guys. We all had our specialist subjects, so when people like Bill Nelson would come along, or, we just analysed the hell out of these guitar players, We were like this coterie or a salon, and these guys who were older than me, they showed me how to walk the walk, really. They allowed me to be part of it because I could play. The fact is, I could play Rebel Rebel without sticking my tongue out. They were all like, and I just was like, give that to me. So I remember that being a big moment for me, because these older guys didn't want to let on that they thought I was good, but and it was like, oh right, this looked kind of easy. And but anyway, when New Wave came out, suddenly then it was all about Tambourine, Richard Hell, Johnny Thunders in a really big way. And I got into James Williamson, the Stooges. We all had our new guys, that were influenced by him. James was, but also because I had my younger sister really, really loved disco music, and she loved black music, she loved Chic, so I got into Nile Rodgers then. So I had this strange kind of thing where I was listening to Raw Power, and I was really into Nile Rodgers. He was a great, great pop musician. Great musician, full stop. So that went into my thing. The composition, but the attitude of James Williamson, and truth is that I already had a song that sounded like Gimme Danger by the Stooges, so I was like, okay, hearing James shone a light on what I was doing and said, carry on. So so anyway, one of these older guys, because we took ourselves so seriously, one of these older guys who got into Neil Young, and he went back through folk music. On the first Buffalo Springfield record, there was a thanks to Bert Jansch. So he took it upon himself to get into Bert Jansch. And loads of us then got into, we investigated Richard Thompson, Martin Carthy, Bert Jansch. And as soon as I heard Bert, I was like, this is my guy, this guy is, the bar was really, really raised. As a guitar player, I thought, wow. And the great thing about it is it isn't slick, it's funky, and so luckily for me, anyway, the end of all of this story is that amazing thing about guitar players, they're very, very welcoming, they like checking each other out, and I do it now with new, young guys are around, I made it my business to really find out, you know, about Bernard Butler when he came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I love Nick Zinner from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. You know, guitar players are very good at getting together, you know.
Yeah.
So in my case, Nile Rodgers is now one of my, you know, a really dear friend, you know.
Mm-hmm.
James Williamson and I have got a friendship. And, you know, and I got to know Rory Gallagher a bit before he died, so, yeah.
Well, you were in the studio with Jansch, right? Watching him record, or is that?
Yeah, I played on a couple of his. We made a record. He made a record called Crimson Moon, and I played on a few songs with him. Yeah, I did a couple of shows with him where he got me out to play. So I got to know Bert. I mean, he died a couple of years ago, but Bert and I got to be good friends, and that was an amazing thing, you know. So that thing of, you know, that saying of don't ever get to meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed is not true in my case.
Well,